Hello and welcome to YoDM. Tonight we're playing a game called Into the North. It is set in Iskloft, hundreds of years before the games that I usually run. Recently, the King of Iskloft died, Gunnar, son of Gunnar, who was the first King of Iskloft. He came and conquered it. And in his stead, his son Dagrun became king. Gunnar had a lot of really successful conquests in the south of Iskloft against the other Jarldoms, the Sodderford Jarldoms, where he pretty much crushed the opposition. But Dagrun decided to go north where the Jotunaett live. The Jotunaett are a race of humanoids created by the actual Jotun. They're about 15 feet tall. They're horned, and they're gnarly. And the war did not go particularly well. It had been raging for about 10 years. He managed to push these Jotunaett back into their mountains and their fortresses. And for the past year, there's been a stalemate. Nothing really happening on either side. But all of you are summoned to Wormhold, which is where the king currently resides. It's the first castle that was founded by Gunnar when he landed in Iskloft. To come and speak with the king. There has been seemingly a message sent by the Jotunaett, and he has called you, his faithful retainers, to him. So Wormhold is this big castle. It's nigh unassailable. It's built into the side of a mountain. There's a castle on, as you enter it, to the east, and then a bridge spanning from one cliff face to the next, and then another castle up on top. Almost unassailable, it looks like. You've probably been here quite a few times. You might even live here, or maybe you've traveled here. That's really up to you to decide. But nonetheless, you've been brought here to the palace, which is atop the highest level. And you're kind of ushered through the city and then into or onto this big balcony that overlooks the city itself. You've often questioned why the king has a balcony, and you've had to stand here more than once before in the snow or in the rain, but the elements never seem to bother him as he looks down over his city. And that's what he's doing. He's standing at this, the edge of this balcony. He's looking down. He's wearing this gleaming plate that he always seems to wear. And he turns and looks. Now, you've seen the king before many times. He is unusual in his appearance. People have said he looks unearthly, too perfect, too well structured. There's something about him that's almost unseemly. And with a graceful sort of nod of his head and a flick of his wrist, he says, "Well, come here."
I'll stride forth and bow and then take a knee with my face looking down at the floor, awaiting his word.
You needn't kneel. Stand. Come and look at this.
I'll go and make sure I stand the requisite distance away and behind and to the side of him and look where he points.
Yes, up here, there's this view. There's a land bridge that connects Gunland, which is what you're on, one of the biggest islands of Iskloft, that connects it to Upper Iskloft, like this mountainous, snowy hell where the Jotunaett live. And you can see those mountains over in the distance, and he points just at nothing, at the mountains. And he says, "Do you see it?"
I see the cold north, Lord King.
It's where the castle is. One of the 3 castles that we have been trying to smash for years. I grow tired of their tactics, of their waiting, of their hiding. It makes me sick. They would not face us openly. And he clenches his fist, and he takes a shuddering breath and releases the fist. He looks and he says, I've received a letter from these Jotunaett. And he like clicks his fingers, and from inside the hall out into the balcony walks a Gothi, so like a priest. He's dressed all in kind of brown, ragged robes, and he has this bit of parchment in his hand, and he reads it out. It says, "King, enough of this. My people are starving. Your people are suffering. It has been too long. We ask for parley. Come to Eirikborg." There's no signature. It's undoubtedly, the king says, a message from them, as the Gothi folds up this huge piece of paper. I have reason to believe that they are starving, and that they cannot support themselves in their mountainous homes, that they cannot continue to live the way that they are living. I think that we have them over a barrel. What do you think?
We crush them, Lord King. If they seek parley, it is all the more reason to apply force now. They're close to breaking. Let us break them.
I agree with you in principle, though it's not so easy. For 6 months we stood at those gates, at those huge walls, and we surrounded them. And they never came out, and they stayed inside all that time. And as we stood there and watched them during the siege, my army melted away like the snow. Jarls returning to their lands, saying there were harvests to collect. Men fleeing in the night. Deserting. Treasonous. But nonetheless, I cannot magically bring these people to me. I have tried. And you can see that there's like a real anger in him. And he's trying to maintain some sort of calm, but you can see, because you're quite close to him, Beobrand, that he's like almost shaking.
Further lords, or more lords, will have cause to doubt your rule, Lord King, if you sign a peace with the Jotunaett. But I know only steel. I have here a woman who sees much that has been and may be. And he'll point back towards Skaga. If you will, Lord King, perhaps she could look at the missive. It kind of sneers at like the Jotun hand writ large, and so lacking in ceremony and respect.
Yes. The Gothi hands the letter to you, Skaga.
And she'll take it and inspect it carefully. Does it look as though it was written by Jotun hand?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing is it's huge. It's much too big for, you would never use paper this size. It's also not in ink, it's in charcoal. Which is unusual in itself. You can tell that the runes are extremely angular, like more so than like if you were practiced, like the way that you would write, there would be some sort of connecting between them or like some sort of cursive, but this is very angular, like someone who doesn't write or maybe can't write.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I can consult the bones to see how the gods favored this endeavor. Perhaps.
Yes. And he's like looking wistfully over at the mountains. Yes, perhaps it's best that you do.
And so, like, can she do that here, or would she be better off, like, trying to do it somewhere else? Because
sure, yeah, you could just draw 3 from your bag and like throw them on the ground and see which way they lay.
This would be the best thing to do. So yeah, she'll reach into her pouch and like cast them without much ceremony.
So they scatter dum, 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 on the stone floor here. So it's what you have come to see most recently as a typical cast of the runes, and what you know maybe in your heart is the most common, which is there is no guidance here. You have two runes that cancel each other out entirely, and the third is one that suggests change in the future.
Either way, it appears that this missive is a turning point. There's no real guidance on the best course of outcome, but something important will happen. If nothing else, this parley needs to take place just to see which way the winds will blow afterwards. Change is better than future stagnation.
I will not go, says the king. I will not go and put myself in danger there among those things. I am too important. You know this.
Calfson shifts uncomfortably at that and probably fails to hide it from any of his shrewder companions, the disdain he has for those words. They shame him as well as the speaker. But he won't say anything.
As the bones clatter to the ground, we see a man clad in black wolf's hide. His face, his entire body is a tapestry of black and blue woad, and the blood crusted in his beard is evident to anyone. But as the bones clatter to the ground, he moves forward as if a protector, and it is clear that this ritual holds great reverence in his heart. He is wordless at the reading. Until the Lord speaks those words, he turns, his golden eyes flash, and he does not respond with words, but with a growl. He lopes over to the note. He smells. I smell fear and fat. I agree with my brother. We should crush them now.
The king watches this strange scene unfold, and there's like an almost imperceptible raising of an eyebrow. As I have said, I cannot simply stamp my feet and make an army appear. It will take time. Though I do agree. I think that this offer of peace suggests that they are at their wits' end and that they fear what is to come. So I would suggest that you go to this parley, and in the meantime I will do what I should do as king and raise this army. Call the banners and bring them to me. You will act as spies, see what their position is, see if they are starving, see if they are weak. When you go, I give you authority to make a judgment. You can agree with them, although you can offer no land to be lost from this empire that I'm building. There'll be no talk of submission from us. If they want to surrender, they can do so, and they can keep their mountains, barren as they are. But in return, they must reduce their navy to 10 ships. They must come no further south than this Eirikborg, and they must pay heavy tribute to their emperor. And when he says the words emperor, you can see this like smile come across his face. Can you guys give me a perception?
What if I'm looking away in shame? Do I roll at a disadvantage?
Yes.
And that 20 and a 2, so go with it. 6.
18.
14.
So then, Asger, you'd be the one to see that when he smiles, he's got these like very elongated canine teeth. And he doesn't often smile. He tends to be very tight-lipped, and it kind of creeps up for just a second. You see these like teeth that are not the teeth of a man.
I think Aski has been near the back, watching over the wind play with the snow across this blustery, cold landscape, and while people have rolled bones and growled, and he turns, possibly his attention drawn by the wolf man, and that's when he sees this feral teeth, and he considers for a moment what he's going to say. Lord, you would not have us sate our blades, cut the head from this beast, and see them scattered. You would parley with them?
You are going into the very belly of this beast. There will be many of them there, I'm sure.
I do not fear death, but if their leader's death would aid your cause, that is one I would die for.
Your valor is commendable. Truly. But you are valuable to me, all of you.
So words it is.
If it comes to violence, if it comes to them slighting my name, slighting you, then you have all permission from me to cause violence. Though if it's a parley, they should offer you guest right.
I shall stay my hand, as long as they stay their own, however crude it may be. And at that, like, he slams the ground with the butt of his grand spear.
It does not sit well with me that we must lower ourselves to speaking with these things. But you're not in a good position. Not now. Delay them.
As you wish.
Good. 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 And he turns to look back at the mountain and he's kind of like muttering something under his breath. And it seems that you're dismissed.
Asgay would give him like a lingering look at the back of his head, just mulling over the inhuman fangs of the one he follows, because he probably hasn't been in his company too often, and as you say, he doesn't smile often. And then he sort of whips around, furred cloak whipping in the breeze, and steps off the balcony.
So transport is arranged for you to go from Formhold by boat to Eiriksborg, which is one of the three capitals of the Jotunaett Jarldoms, ostensibly where their king is, if you can call it a king. So you leave Formhold, you make your way to the coast, and you get on a longship, and it sails across the inner sea without too much fanfare or too much trouble. And as you approach 2 days later, you can see that you're greeted basically by 2 ships coming towards you. These ships, from a distance, look like longships. When you get close, they're made for Jotunaett, and so they are enormous, maybe 3 times the size of the ship that you're in. And they kind of sail either side of you, and so you go through this gap in the middle and try to come to a stop as one of these huge horned, bearded Jotunaett leans over the side. What are you doing here? These are not lands for your people.
Skaga would call out in Jotunaett and say that we come on a mission for parley, and kind of hold up the missive.
Is
And
one of you... Sorry, go ahead.
would it be possible for me to judge the condition of their ships, given my Reaver background?
Sure, yeah. Perception or investigation, whichever you prefer.
19.
Yeah, so these ships are in good condition, although the guy talking to you does look like you fought these guys before. He looks thin. He says, "Which one of you is the king?"
There is no king amongst us. We come and speak with his will.
He turns and looks at some of the other Jotunaett aboard his ship, and he says something quietly to them. There's a couple of moments as the ships kind of just rock on the waves. These 2 huge ships either side of you. Just splashing of waves and creaking of rigging and wood. But eventually leans over the side again. We expected as much. Fine. You'll follow us.
As you wish.
So they begin to turn and they lead you, staying on either side of you, up this river that goes from the sea, until you come towards this big dock, and you can see the city beyond. You go through this natural sort of there's a cliff on either side, basically. So it's quite a tight little canal that you have to go through to get in here, and it's why the human navy has been smashed here twice in the past. There's no getting in here, not where their ships are bigger, and not with such a defensive position. And you kind of look now and you realize, you might have even been here, some of you, that it's not possible to get into this castle, not by sea. They sail you in and they pull you up to a dock. And this big Jotunaett kind of leaps off the side and walks over to your ship. And he extends a hand to pull you out. The dock is much higher than your ship, so you need a hand to get out.
How many Jotunaett are sailing in their larger ships?
So it's probably 30 in each one.
Okay, so they are pretty damn massive.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long ship, but, scaled up to fit them.
We have no way of sailing those, at all. They'd be far too large, the ropes and everything.
Yeah, you think the ropes would probably be much too heavy and thick, but also you could probably do it with twice the crew,
Yes.
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
But not with our current party.
No, certainly not.
Okay. Just because I never get to use this, the know your enemy thing from the Battlemaster can assess people over a minute, and you tell me whether they're superior or inferior in strength, dex, constitution, armor class, etc., etc.?
Okay.
Just you said that they were looking kind of weedy and weak. I have strength of 20. You don't have to reveal the number to me or whatever, but like, do they look like I could push them, like push and pull them around, like I would on par, or like be able to beat them? Just how sickly do they look, and how concerned
Right.
are you for their physical prowess?
So, I mean, they're still very frightening in their bearing, you know, like they don't exude any sort of fear. But when, you know, you would have fought them before, they would have been much burlier, much more muscly, much more heavy set. You know, they all kind of have taken on a bit of a, not gaunt, but like not as robust. You think they're probably still stronger than you.
Right, fair enough. That's what I needed to know. Okay. I would like take the hand or whatever and be pulled up onto the dock.
Yeah, he pulls you guys up out of the boat, and with the crew as well, who are like looking kind of confusedly. But he says, "You'll not be on the boat," and he pulls them out as well. And once you're all out and standing, it's probably been a while since you've been this close to one of these Jotunaett. They really are enormous. It's about 15 feet to their head, and they all have these horns at the top of their head, which, you know, change in shape and size and stuff depending on the particular Jotunaett. This one has horns like going out the side of his head, very, very long, like a bull. And he looks down and he says, "Are you ready to meet the king?"
Of course, lead on.
You'll address him as your majesty and kneel when you enter.
Our knees know one king for now. I will show what respect we may to your king.
He kind of snorts and he starts walking, and you can hear the heavy, like, as he walks along the wooden deck towards the city itself. It's a strange experience being in a Jotunaett city because it looks a lot like a human city, except everything is 3 times the size. And so all of the gates are enormous. The stalls in the market, you know, you can't see what's on the stalls. It's all very odd. It's strangely familiar, but also so different as you're walking through this city. And they lead you through basically and up. You're kind of winding upwards and upwards, and you can see that like it leads to a cliff face with these stairs carved into the side that lead up to a gate. And as you get to the base of the stairs, he begins walking his way up, but you again are having trouble making your way up these stairs, which are not sized for you. So I would just like a constitution, or actually we'll call it athletics from everyone, please.
Oh, excellent.
Ooh, because there's one thing someone with a negative modifier in their strength is good at.
13 only for Beobrand.
14.
I managed a 28.
Holy moly.
Could I use that to help someone else if they fail, like push them up with my shield or something?
Yeah.
I only got a 27.
It's quite obvious during the ride on the ship that Orn does not have sea legs. He's unsteady when he gets off of the boat. He bares his teeth and puffs out his chest as best he can. But when he gets to the stairs and starts making his ascent, it proves to be too much for him. As I rolled a natural 1.
So I like to imagine that Orin is like trying to, like he sees the steps are too big for him, you know, and so he tries to like climb them like a tree almost, but this is stone and the claws won't penetrate, and so you kind of like skitter, but are unable to like climb up the first. Eventually you're able to pull each other up or whatever, but when you get to the end, all of you, except for Odinson and Alricsson, are just like breathing heavily and sweating. quite a lot of stairs, and it wasn't easy going. And so it's in that state that you like enter into this big hall. The doors are like smashed open. And again, you just feel very small and dwarfed in this hall that looks like a long hall, like any sort of long hall that you've been in. But the tables are huge, the chairs are huge. There's a massive fire roaring in the center. And at the back, there's this throne. Is the only way to describe it. It seems to be made of bone, and on it is sitting a Jotunaett. He doesn't look particularly regal. He's got red hair. He's sitting with one leg resting on top of the other as he like looks at his nails. And you're kind of led past all these like Jotunaett who are like sitting at the table and they're drinking from mead horns and they're eating. And there's like cooked meat and stuff like that. It actually smells pretty nice in here. But eventually you're brought to the king himself. He looks at you and raises an eyebrow.
The Jotunaett in this room, are they like Jotunaett nobles? Do they look like they've been fed better? Dressed better?
Yeah.
Right. And we've passed, like, how many Jotunaett in our adventure so far through this city? Just, for military numbers gathering purposes.
Sure. So you've passed through the city itself. You've probably seen upwards of 500.
Right. Just pertinent information for our Lord.
It's not nearly as populated as Human City would be. There's a lot of empty streets. There's also, I guess it's an issue of scale, like everything's much further apart. And so it feels quite empty. There's maybe 20 people sitting, or Jotunaett sitting in this hall. So, Dagrun did not deign to show his presence here himself. He sends you and a dog to parley with me.
Indeed, and he bids you welcome to come that he may host you in his hall, if it is your wish.
I find his halls somewhat lesser than mine, a little bit cramped, not quite as
They are not
grand.
so empty, Lord King.
You have a sharp tongue. What's your name, warrior?
I'm Beobrand, son of Kelf.
And so, you come to parley with me. We cannot do this here. There are too many people. Rules should say that there are as many of us as there are of you, and there are... and you see him actually struggle to count for a second. 5 of you. And, all right. He stands from his throne pretty fluidly. And he looks across the room and he nods at a few different of the Jotunaett, and they stand as well. And they walk over towards you. Now you're kind of it's quite uncomfortable because they stand so much higher than you. So there's 1 in front of you and 4 behind you. And even though you have fought them, they can be killed, and that there's still this feeling of just
standing in
smallness.
between heaps of skyscrapers.
Exactly, yeah. Just being outmatched, even though that might not be the case. He says, we have a place that we take our holy rituals. That's where we will discuss this. It's a sacred thing, these parleys. We will not do to have it here in Mead Hall.
Lord King, I beg pardon, and for meat and salt, guest rights before we go any further in our negotiations.
Yes, of course. He clicks his fingers. It's extremely loud when he does so. Clack. And a Jotunaett runs over. He's got a platter with bread, salt, and mead. And he places it down on the ground in front of you. The king reaches down. He takes a little bit of bread, He like kind of rubs it in the salt. He takes a bite.
Take the monstrous platter and make sure each of us consume some.
Orin.
There's visible and auditory disdain when the platter is passed to Orn. The smell, the sweet smell of the mead turns his stomach. Looking at the dry bread, it visibly disgusts him.
Seeing this, Beobrad will take like the portion of bread that's sawn off for Orn over to. You said there was food cooking where these other Jotunaett were like milling about their king. So I'll go to like some piece of meat and like hold the bread up to like the dripping or find some blood spooled and sop it in that so it's more to his liking. But it's important that this tradition is honored before we go to the parley.
Can I identify what kind of meat this is?
Sure. Yeah. I think you would just know. It's like an aurochs, big ass cow.
Just wanted to make sure. I've heard tales of the Jotun eating men.
Not in this hole. Not right now. But that is a common tale.
It'd be in poor taste for them to be consuming human man flesh whenever expecting man's invoice for a parley.
Well, do you expect table manners from a Jotun?
As Beobrand hands on the bloody, soppy hunk of bread, he consumes it like an animal. It drips down, the blood drips down his teeth and down his beard. He smiles wide at the king to show that his teeth, each of his teeth have been ground into points like that of a carnivore. He smells on the air. He smells something from this king. It's the same smell that he smells on the hunt of the weak, the wounded, the old, the young, the animals that the pack hunts. There is weakness in this man, and he smiles and gives him a canny nod.
The king smiles in return and nods. He has like the others have appeared behind you, and they all take a drink of mead and a chunk of bread. And he says, "Come, we'll go somewhere more suitable for this kind of discussion." And he turns and he kind of walks behind the throne. There's a door leading out. The other Jotunaett behind you kind of like begin moving, and you either move or get pushed past as they begin to move. Are you going to try and keep pace with these guys?
Crowding us.
Oh, they're crowding you for sure. Yeah.
I would turn and say to him, "Best not to stand too close. The dog bites."
Might be a dog to you, but to me, it's a mouse.
And all I smell are hibernating bears with grass plugging up their assholes so they don't shit themselves.
Come, you two, says Beobrand. There'll be plenty of time to insult each other once the negotiations begin. Let us not foul them before then. And once the Jotunaett kind of move about us, I'll lean in closer and say, "We go to talk for peace, but keep your wits about you. Keep your blades sheathed for now, and do not try to provoke them further. We're commanded by our Lord to find out what we may. We cannot do that if we foil the parley before it begins. Calm yourselves."
You see, as you kind of give that insult, Orn, there's one of these Jotunaett. He's just wearing like a loincloth and 3 bear skins like stitched around his shoulders. And he like takes a step forward, and he goes snow on his face, but one of the others puts his hand on his chest and pushes him back. And he mutters something very similar to what Beobrand had just said. We're here for peace. They lead you outside and begin this walk upwards. Again, a staircase cut into the mountain that leads up and up and up until finally, after about 20 minutes of climbing, there's a tree here, this huge old oak tree, and an altar before it. And there's a Jotunaett standing here, and he's got an aurochs bull next to him. He's like holding a leash on it. And he kind of like looks at you all as you approach and kind of like seems to be reading you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, can I do like a history or an arcana check for like the altar and the significance of the aurochs and all that other
Sure. Yep.
stuff? Which would it be?
Religion or history?
Alrighty. Ugh. I'm gonna roll crap on it, it looks like, but it'll be the same either way. So 10.
Okay. The Skald could attempt this as well, but it's religious knowledge, so I don't think the rest of you could.
Okay, I'll try a history roll. Let me see. That's a 28.
Oh my god, yeah. So you...
No, maybe not. Sorry, 25, 26, sorry.
Okay, still super high. So you are familiar with these customs. They're not dissimilar from your own. The idea of like a sacrifice to begin negotiations or to like preside over like a contract or something. So you think this aurochs is going to be sacrificed. The oak is symbolic of the world tree. It's clearly very old, and they've taken really good care of it. A lot of similarities to your religion, although there are differences. So you think there's going to be a ritual here before you start?
I'll keep that to myself.
So you kind of gather around this altar, the Jotunaett and yourselves kind of making a semicircle, and the king goes and stands in front of it. And he kind of like nods to the other Jotunaett who's holding the bull by the leash, and he like leads it, and between the two of them they like pick it up and place it onto the altar. It's like squirming. It's a kind of frightening show of strength as like the two of them hold this bull in place, and it's like trying to escape, and it's kind of panicking. The king takes a blade from his belt, and he's speaking Old Jotun. So I guess, Gaga, you would understand it's basically a call for the Jotun to watch over the sacrifice, to accept it, and to ensure no lies are spoken here at this parley. And so he takes the knife and he runs it across the throat of the bull. The blood like fires arterial sort of out and soaks you and the Jotunaett standing behind you. And they like covered in blood, like look up to the sky, and with their eyes closed as the blood just. And once everyone is soaked, he like finishes the job. He reaches his hand at the wound and covers it in blood. He walks over to the oak and he places his bloody hand upon it. And again, he asks the Jotun to watch over this gathering, to ensure no lies are spoken, to ensure or to ask for success in these dealings. He takes his hand, he wipes it on his tunic, and he kind of like offers you seats that you'll have to climb into.
Before
No
I
problem.
do that, I would like to like mimic his ritual a bit and like do like the same thing, like take blood-soaked hand, place it on the tree, and do a similar prayer, but to the Aesir, and ask for the Aesir's guidance and blessing, and to the meeting.
So as you approach the tree, this Jotun who had been holding the bull, he like steps in front of you. He doesn't say anything. He hasn't spoken yet at all, but he stands in front of you, barring your path.
I would respond to him in Jotun and just kind of say that our gods belong in this meeting as well.
And he says, "Your gods committed genocide on my people. They are not welcome here."
Surely that's both of our gods have had similar bloodlettings. If this is to be a true parley, everything must be equal. I mean no disrespect.
He takes another step forward. He's like right in front of you, towering over you.
The black form of the Ulfhednar steps in between them.
Asgeir steps forward with like spear, not pointed at the Jotunaett, but sort of just out to one side. Perhaps we could pass on tradition this one time and get to the words before the coming unpleasantness. Our gods will see us when we leave this place.
Skaga will just nod and step away, but not dropping her eyesight or dropping her eyes or showing any type of like meekness. It was not his reaction was not unexpected, but she had to try.
We can speak for the gods. We hold them within ourselves. They do not need to be within this tree as well.
There's like a visible exhalation of breath from most of the Jotunaett as well, who were poised and ready in case something went off. But they kind of relaxed back into their seats.
Valder will make a mental note of the fact that the possibility of physical confrontation makes them nervous.
Because Asgeir also knows some Jotunaett, which is why he understood some of that conversation. He'll say whatever he knows is respectful. If they have like a sign of respect or something that he can do, a thank you. He'll look at the large one that was standing in front of the tree and just kind of say that or make that hand action or something.
Sure, yeah.
And then help people into chairs or climb into his own.
Yeah. He continues seething. He seems particularly unhappy that you are here. But nonetheless, you get into your chairs and the king sits also. And he says, we are warlike. Our fathers made us in their image large, powerful, and skilled. And yet when your people came to Iskloft, we saw the possibility of peace. But your kings send countless thousands of farmers to die, facing us every year. And they continue, though we offer them endless chances to call for peace. We offer terms that are generous. You should know that if your people are wiped from this land, that if your children and your elders and your women lie dead, it will be by the hand of your king, not by mine.
You should know that we are quite aware that it is you who have called for this parley, and that it is you who needs this peace, not us. We have brought generous terms of our own. Surrender.
He leans forward, interested. He puts his elbow on his on his knee and kind of puts his chin on his hand. Terms of surrender. Yes, it has been a long time. What are these terms? How will you surrender?
Oh no. No. Your surrender.
There's this rumbling laugh that comes from him, and then the others sitting near you echo it. You almost have to cover your ears. You can feel it in your chest as they rumble this laughter. There will be no surrender from us. We look for peace on equitable terms, that our people, both of them, may go back to living lives away from the misery of war.
Our people do not find misery in war.
Our people do not fear death.
All people find misery in war. So you have come then to offer these terms. Are they reasonable? What are they?
That you will scutter your entire fleet, but for 10. Will claim no lands south of Ingelborg. That you will surrender and recognize Lord King Dagrun as Emperor of Iskloft, do him homage, and pay to him tribute yearly. And you shall keep your status and what lands you still cling to here.
I suppose he wants the horns off my head as well. And you see him pinch the bridge of his nose, like he's thinking. You know there are no women among the Jotunaett, no children. We emerge fully grown, created centuries ago, when your gods still walked this world.
It would seem that you cannot emerge as quickly as we can kill you. Your numbers are dwindling. Your people are failing. Look around you. Your men are malnourished. They fear us. And we are only 5.
There are not many of us, but one Jotunaett is worth 10 of you. Perhaps you are special. That's why the king chose you. I can sense that there is threat in every movement that you make. But when your armies come, they are not warriors, they are farmers. And they smash against shield walls and die in droves. There is no glory in this for either side. Do you have room to negotiate with these terms, or are these the terms you are offering?
We have our Lord King's leave to hear your terms and decide with his judgment what is best.
The scuppering of the Navy is not possible. We need those ships for trade, for transport, and to protect our borders.
The necessity of northern trade will be handled by the southern lords, more equipped and less caught up by a war that they are losing. You will not have need for more than 10, Lord King.
He swallows loudly.
And with peace in the south, there would be no need to defend at least your southern border.
Indeed, the Emperor will protect you and your people.
Maybe. I do not trust your Emperor. He is not all that he seems. I'm sure you have sensed it. What do you know of the first king?
That in a lifetime he took half of Iskloft, first king of this wild land, and forebearer of a great lineage to follow him. In his blood lies the strength to sunder giants, and much more.
In his blood lies madness, and ruin, and dust. And then he calms himself. I cannot trust your Emperor. He speaks only falsehoods, only lies. He knows nothing else.
And yet you invited him to your hall?
I thought that if I
Why
met
would you
him...
parley with a man who had trust? Did you intend to slay him when he was here?
I would never kill a man under guest right, not in my hall, not in any hall. I thought that if I saw him in person, that I could see the lies and steer him towards the truth.
There is an alternative. You can return with us and speak with him in person.
Tempting. I ask again, what do you know about this?
You have the courage for it. Sorry, yeah, Valder just said, though I do not think you have the courage for it.
I'm not afraid to go to that land because of any threat of death. I'm afraid that they will take me captive, that they will break their oaths, such is the way of the line of Gunnar. There was a pact struck a long time ago. That king that you revere, how do you think he conquered the world? How did he get every Jarl to bend the knee? Jarls who for centuries, for time immemorial, have always been at each other's throats. How did he do this?
Steel, fire, the blood of his enemies.
That is what they would have you believe, certainly. What if there was a darker truth?
Speak plain. If you insult my king, at least do not make me have to work for the figuring of what it is you say.
Dagrun is no man. He is something else. There are other things that dwell in this world, in the dark places, in the woods. I think you know of what I speak.
I also know that the perception of such things can vary upon the point of view. There are plenty of tales of the Jotun in our lands, some of which that if we told you, you'd cast it off as heresy and lies.
There is a difference in your culture and mine. You live a short time and then you die. And the stories are passed down, and they are passed down imperfectly. And so things change, details change, stories change. Victories are written to glorify this king. They're written in a way to suggest that it happened in a certain way that did not happen. I have seen things that your king has done that would shock you, that would make you think if he is worth following. These dark things that live in the woods, I do not wish to say the name. You know of what I speak. Creatures that come in the night, that steal children, that haunt all.
Can I roll like an Arcana check to identify what kind of creature he's talking about? And because I took the Ansuz rune, I have a +1 on top of my stuff for Celestials, Fae, and Fiends. So that would be a modified 20.
He is talking about alpha elves that live in the woods, or maybe in another plane, another world of the 9 worlds. Horrifying creatures with insane powers of enchantment, of control. They're known to grant wishes with barbs in the wording.
And I guess I'll say, like, you speak of the Alfar, speak plain.
So you say the word Alfar, and the Jotunaett all make a sign. It's kind of hard for you to, you can make a religion check if you want to figure out what it is, but they all make this same sign, basically all at once when you say it, and they spit on the ground.
Yeah, I failed that religion check. That was a 9.
Yeah, it's something to do with their Jotun gods, but they all do it and then they spit in the ground.
Would a 13 be any better on religion?
Yeah, I got 13 as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be enough. Yeah, some sort of like protective charm or something. It says, I would ask you not to utter the name of those creatures here. Every time you do, you draw their attention.
Is there anything in this world that your people do not fear?
The Jotunaett who had kind of stepped forward earlier, who's just wearing the loincloth, he stands up from his chair, and like with one step, he is by yours. But the king says, enough! And he stops. But he's like standing over you, and he's breathing heavily. He's got this murderous look in his eyes.
I've already jumped out of my chair and I'm reaching for my axe when the king shouts. So my hand will rest close to the haft.
With my modified 20 on the Arcana roll, do I, recognize that their fear is valid, or is it just a superstition?
That's a difficult question. Do you think your character... Yeah, it is. Do you think your character believes in elves? Because...
is there any type of, Aesar god, mingling with elf religion or elf mythology or anything like that?
Not that you're aware of.
Then probably not then.
Like, in this world, they are scary stories to tell children. That's probably as much. Like, I would think that of anyone here, you might have a better idea. But other than that, I think most people just believe that they're scary stories,
Right. So there probably hasn't been anything that would have caused Skaga to believe that they're real, other than just stories.
Yeah, especially because you kind of do rune magic as opposed, you don't do as much of the kind of dark Sather stuff, so you probably wouldn't have had any dealings with them.
Right.
What
okay.
about myself with my what's it called, expertise in history?
Sure, you can make a roll.
A history roll?
Sorry?
History roll or what?
Yeah, history, please.
25.
Okay, so you can recall that in one of the sagas, there's a story of a strange, hideous symphony that played. Elves appeared in the world. They were luring people and using their bodies and the parts within them to play this hideous song. You remember hearing that in a saga once. It was vaguely to do with Gunnar, the first king, although it's phrased in a way where he defeated these or destroyed this like hideous orchestra.
I'll climb back up into my seat.
Yeah, Skaga will say, apologize for upsetting you. It was not my intent. Like, apologizing for the unrest she caused, but...
These creatures, they are real, they exist. I have seen them, I have fought them. I do not wish to do so again.
Can I insight check him?
Sure.
Let me see. No, shit. I am like rolling garbage today. Oh, well, no, that's still good. 16.
Looks like he's on the level. I say again, this king, this man, you believe that he, where thousands of others have never been able to, jarls and kings of Iskloft, who their whole lives struggled to try and unify even a small part of this vast country. Suddenly, this outsider comes and he conquers almost all of the world.
Is because he brought the new gods and is beloved of Tyr, who gave him power to take victory. Tyr, god of truth, brother to Odin, enemy of your people, and great smiter of them.
Tyr, who lost a hand by putting it in the mouth of a wolf. What an inspiring figure. One of the Jotunaett at the Black Mothers, and the king gave him this look. Gunnar, their first king, made a pact with these creatures for power. He cursed his line, he cursed himself, and with the power that he got from these creatures, he conquered Iskloft alarmingly quickly. It is how we have been beaten back to where we are. His son has inherited the sins of his father.
Is Iskloft not better united than warring constantly between itself?
I will not live under the dominion of a creature like that.
Very well, then you will not live.
I have let your slights go for some time because I want this discussion to go well, but you are pushing me over the line, Skald. You are in a dangerous position. There are 5 of you. You are standing in my kingdom. I can click my fingers and have you broken.
Guest rights are given as well as taken, I'll say to Valda. No doubt there'll be a time for blood. We cannot hear
I
the
have
words
no
that we are all
intention of
shouting.
slaying this king here in his own hall. Obviously, I understand that if it were to come to battle now, the 5 of us shall die.
You have little faith, Valda, and I'll turn back to the king. Go on, but know that you speak to leal servants of your enemy. We'll hear no further lies about heresy or this alpha.
They make the sign again. And they spit. There is a way that you can prove it. This king of yours, he would be deformed in some way, but more than that, he would fear something trifling that would be no problem to you or I. Take a piece of unforged iron, press it to his skin. It will bubble and pop and sizzle. It will begin to fall off the bone.
And then when the Emperor is nothing more than a puddle, Iskloft would go to war.
And the Jotun descend from the north.
Something would take his place, perhaps a man.
But as you have been so frank, no mere man can unite all of Iskloft. And with that, all of the Earls would war, and the Jotunaett would war, and many would lose their lives.
Many lose their lives even now. This war has gone on for too long. Does it not bother you that you live under a monster?
He is no monster. He is a just king who has brought law and the true gods to this land.
The terms you have offered are not acceptable. I cannot accept them.
Very well, if that is your decision.
Do not forget what I have said about the cold iron. You will see.
And if we do see, what promises do we have that the Jotun won't come down and take advantage of our weakness?
I will swear a solemn oath to you now that if you can deal with this king, if you can prove and see the light, that he is a creature of shadow, an evil thing, I will swear that there will be peace between our peoples, that we will go no further south than Eirikborg, as your king has suggested. These hellish frozen lands suit my people, but are barren, inhospitable to yours. You have no need of them. There will be peace. We can arrange for hostages if you like, but I swear by solemn oath here and now, in front of this tree. But I will not make peace with that creature.
If you will not make peace with our king, then you did not lure us here to parley for peace, but to turn us upon him.
If he is a man, and you put some cold iron to his skin, nothing will happen, and you will know that I'm a liar. You will know that I gave sacrifice, and that I lied before my gods, before the world tree. That there will be no glory for me. Only shame and death. If that is the case.
If you are wrong, you have just cast aside the only branch of peace my lord will offer.
It is a risk that I am willing to take.
Eat well, Jotun, he'll say to the other giants in the room. And turn and leave before any can discern that he looks wavered by the king's words.
The big Jotun who is wearing the bear skins, he stands and he begins to move as well. But he just positions himself in front of Orn so that you have to walk around him. And he leans down towards you, Orn. He squats down so that he's only a little bit taller than you. There's something in you, something a lot like me.
Orn bares his teeth, but he doesn't say a word. He waits to make sure the sorceress is away from this bear skin clad warrior. And it isn't until the others are clear of his range that Orn turns his back on this creature, showing the black wolf cloak that he's wearing, and a face stares back at this Jotunaett, the face of a Donnerwolf.
You wouldn't see it, but the Donnerwolf's dead eyes would see this look of grudging respect as you walk and leave this place.
And I imagine that there's probably a stunned somberness amongst the group. And it wouldn't be until we had cleared perhaps this hall, perhaps making our way back down these huge stone stairs. But at a point when Orn believes that we are safely out of earshot, I think the others would notice his hackles have risen. There's an unsettled look to his countenance, his strange woad-covered face. And he would turn and speak, I think, to everyone, but specifically to the sorceress, who he is charged to protect. And he would say, "There are whispers amongst my moon brothers and sisters, deep away from our lands, from the lands of the Jotun, deep in the darkest forests, white shadows, something old, evil. If the Jotun is right." And he would look at Skaga, for she has been sort of an anchor of wisdom through his chaotic life.
Don't worry, Orn. We won't be dismissing the Jotun's words out of hand. That would be foolish. But we would need to be careful. It could just be words to cause unrest.
And he wouldn't respond, but there would be a noticeable ease to his gait as we continue on.
Yeah, so you're escorted back down through the city to your boat. You see the crew are looking pretty scared as they're standing around. They're watched by a crowd of maybe 15 of these Jotunaett, the ones who had escorted you in. They give you a hand back down into your boat as it's maybe a 10-foot drop. And they just kind of like watch, unspeaking, as you like leave the bay through these massive cliff sort of protective walls and back out into the open sea. Might just take a quick break there, guys. I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Okay.
I am back.
Is everyone else back?
Never left.
Yep.
I'm here.
So, in the ship, Valder would be speaking to Beobrand and Aushkir, and he would say, "I do not like this. I think the Jotun king," and he kind of curls his lip when he says that, "is trying to turn us against our own. You saw them. They are a defeated people, jumping at shadows. They're afraid. They know they cannot defeat us, so they would try to turn us against each other. What do you think?"
I believe you are right.
Can I ask? I presume that I've been fighting in these wars for a fair while, because
Yep.
to reach level 10, you'd probably be a fairly hefty soldier by then. Under this potentially elfin king, how has, I know Iskloft isn't the nicest of places, but how has it changed? Like, has it persisted as it is? Has life got better? Like, at least in my kind of circles, or like I know the Jotunaett kept talking about thousands of farmers being thrown against their shield walls and things, but like, has a united Iskloft actually been for the better?
I guess it depends on who you ask. I think for the warrior class, probably yes.
Okay.
There's been endless work, endless glory to be reaped, endless wealth to be gotten for those who are in the warrior profession. But conquest against these Jotunaett takes a lot of manpower, and there simply aren't enough warriors in Iskloft. Like, almost everyone's a farmer, because the climate is terrible. It requires a lot of farming, and so when King Dagrun calls the banners, he demands a certain number of troops from everyone, and if the Jarls can't provide, then they have to take people from the fields, people who are not professional warriors, you know. And you would have been in battles, certainly, where, you know, you would be in like the heart of the shield wall, maybe, you know, or like a unit of like people armed and armored similarly to you, but also there would be units of, you know, guys in like cloth jackets with wood cutting axes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine as a soldier you'd realize that you'd always have auxiliary troops. Am I aware, like, how aware are we of geography outside of Iskloft, like other nations potentially as threats that a united Iskloft could defend, but a shattered one could not?
At this time in the lore, totally unaware that there are other countries.
Right. Very well.
Like Sutherfield, which is like the southern island, is like quite far, relatively from Iskloft. But that was conquered by Gunnar, and so it's been a part of Iskloft probably all your life.
So I think my opinion would be Iskloft needs a strong leader to unite it. Fractured, we would not be able to farm the food needed for a winter. Fractured, we would fall, whether it be to Jotun or to each other. And for my entire life, all I've known is that it's been this line of Gunnar, that no one else would be worthy of the throne, as it were.
It's only been Gunnar and Dagrun. Gunnar was king for like 150 years.
Okay.
He's like this mythical king almost. And Dagrun's been king for probably 40 years, maybe.
And we think that's because he was blessed of the Aesir and given the gift of long life, right? Okay.
I think I'm going to cast a spell. This ship, do we have a hold?
Sure, there'd be like a compartment or something. It wouldn't be like under a deck, you know, it's all open relatively, but there'd be like a tent or a tarp or something at the back.
Okay, right. So I'll go to that kind of, you know, makeshift cabin, if you will. And I will pull out 4 valuable ivory strips. And I'll take out some incense that I place in a bowl and I begin to burn. It'll take me 10 minutes to cast this, but I'm casting legend lore.
Ooh.
And the subject is going to be Gunnar Gunnarsen.
Okay. I don't know what legend lore does, so you'll have to explain it to me.
Naughty.
Ooh, me! I don't know what the spell does.
Yeah, legend lore, you name or describe a person, place, or object. The spell brings to my mind a brief summary of the significant lore about the thing I've named. The lore might consist of current tales, forgotten stories, or even secret lore that has never been widely known. If the thing isn't of legendary importance, then I gain no information. The more information I already have about the thing, the more precise and detailed the information that I receive will be. The information I learn is accurate, but may be couched in figurative language. So I already know I'd say, I mean, I could roll it if you want, but I'd say I already know quite a bit about Gunnar Gunnarsen, given, you know,
he's like a mythical king.
Importance and my, you know, knowledge of history.
Yep. Okay, so he kind of came out of nowhere, and with a group of heroes, began. He claimed a jarldom early in his life, and he consolidated that power. One of the secrets that you would learn is that he once broke a piece. Like there was a a holy peace, where people came to his town with birch branches. And he broke that peace and killed their leader. And for this action, Tyr disowned him for a long time. You would also know that he went on to defend the Sodeford Jarldoms to the south with his allies against this horde of creatures from far away. You would know that he was betrayed by his liege lord during his lifetime, sold into slavery. You would know you'd also know that he went on thereafter to conquer what was then called Ostland, but has since become known as Iskloft. This huge country he conquered, what is now called Gunsland. It's called Gunsland because he's called Gunnar. He was waging a war up into the north. He killed his first wife in the marriage bed. And you would know that his son was born with a disfigurement. That there was that he went to a hidden island, a secret island, where apparently he spoke to something in the woods. His friends abandoned him thereafter.
And that disfigured son is Dagrun.
Yes.
Troubling indeed. I'll report all of that to, well, especially to, I'll report it to everybody, but particularly to, Aushkir and the names have disappeared at the top of the screen, and Beobrand.
I'd maybe counsel before you start revealing the secrets of our Lord that it is away from the normal crew that we have.
Of course, that's why I said specifically for you guys.
Yeah, private quarters.
Absolutely. I think Asgeir would...
I didn't get this on by being a fool.
Yeah. I think Asgeir would look towards Beobrand.
I'm shocked at this. I wouldn't believe it from other people, but one of you saying it, I take it as truth. I can't reconcile that our king could be this corrupted, that it could be true, or else why then haven't our gods forsaken him? Like their very vessel supports him and is gifted daily with their power. If our own gods will not turn against him, how can the Jotun think to turn us against our own king? Even if this is true, Dagrun's form is wrought from the sins of his father. And what king can be found in any land that does not have a father like this somewhere? Bricks of every
Indeed.
lord's castle is mortared in blood.
Was Skaga part of this particular council?
Yeah, it's just us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Us five.
the five of us.
Oh, all five of us?
All five of us.
Okay.
And Warren.
I think at this point, like, with that and with Orn's misgivings, like Skaga would, and the Jotun King's warnings, I think Skaga would try to perform like another singing just to see if, like, she can get any guidance from the Aesir in like the course of this information. Like perhaps the war's stalemate has not been so much the Jotun versus our people, but rather our gods trying to prevent an elf from spreading their influence further.
Okay. What does the spell look like?
So, like, in this case, she'd be, like, seriously trying to get the guidance. So she'd be pulling out, like, her, like, runes and, like, preparing, like, holding them in her hand and kind of, like, revealing the runes that are kind of, like, tattooed into her skin for, like, the signs of Mjolnir and, like, the various Aesir gods, and kind of pray over them a bit, and then she would cast them across the floor of the ship, or the deck of the ship, in the room they're in.
And what are you casting?
Just the seer background.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Sure. So this has frequently been the case when you try to divine information in relation to the king or the king's father, is that you get that same kind of combination of runes that cancel each other out, and just a lot of vagueness. It's never clear, and you've done it many times, but it's never reveals anything.
And with this kind of context, with the possibility of him being a elf touched, would, like, I find those canceling runes more telling than actual information, perhaps.
That is up to you to decipher.
Once I get the stories are true about the old ones, the reason I can't ever seem to get clear answers from the gods could be that the old blood of these creatures are keeping me from being able to read the signs.
How can these broken gods contest with the will of the Aesir?
It's not so much their broken gods, but rather their twisted magics. If the stories are to be true, or held to be true, the power that these creatures wield are nothing but for misgiving and lies and confusion and chaos.
Well, what do you propose we do? You know the gods will best, if such a thing can even be said. Our oaths lie to our king, sworn in stone. Yet the very powers that the gods provide for you have divined that what this Jotun king may say is truth. Where is a man to go? Truth and law and fealty? What happens when we're each pulled in all three ways at once?
All I know is that the gods would not take kindly to a pretender of man sitting in man's throne. If there's nothing truly to be lost by testing the Jotun King's theory, all it is a bit of cold iron. And we will have our truth quickly enough.
What if his hand wraps around the cold iron and does not bubble? That we would deign to test our king before he is caught at the words of his enemy? Sorry, Dan.
After your statement, Asa would say, or if it does bubble, he will then have murdered a king inside his own capital without... Dagrun doesn't have an heir, right? Or does he have a royal family?
He doesn't have an heir.
Indeed, that would have been my question as well. What do we do if it turns out to be true?
Without a plan in place, the entire of Iskloft would fall into chaos. Lots of little tyrants rather than perhaps the one.
And all of the people we've brutalized and all the villages we've burnt and all the miles through snow and guts we've trekked will be for naught, but for more of the same.
Skaga would kind of spread her hands a bit and just say you would prefer that if it is true, we let this twisted fey creature remain in our remain in power?
I would prefer we had a plan. What would happen afterwards if you did prove it either way?
If you're wrong, then we plan treason. And he'll look about everyone face to face.
Indeed. Has he not been a good king for us?
Each of us bears the rings he has given us upon our arms. Each of us owe our hearth and mead and shelter to him.
Why don't we just approach him honestly, tell him what we've heard, and see what he says? We do not have to pose it as any kind of a challenge or a threat.
Dagrun nods slowly at that. That sounds kind of like a preferable, like, warrior's deal.
His
wise counsel, Valda.
You think proposing his potential secret or weakness to a man who owns all of Iskloft and who has thrown countless lives into many innumerable wars wouldn't see even the proposal of this idea a threat? He wouldn't have you murdered on the spot for even suggesting he was a fey elfin creature?
Not if this word came from the gods, and he'll point to Skaga at that. Throwing her under the Viking bus.
Besides, we were sent to parley with the king of the Jotun. We've done that. We would simply be reporting to him what he said.
Exactly.
If anything, it is our duty.
Okay. And when he comes to ask you if you believe the Jotun king or not, or if he sees through you with these elven magics that shroud him from the true
If he is indeed the honorable king that I have followed for these last 10 years, then I do not think it will be a problem.
Ah, well, very well. You did obviously so well in there with your words. Perhaps you can impress us again talking to our own lord.
But for now, speak of none of this to the rest of the crew. Keep it between us. As Aesgeir points, as Valda pointed out, these words were maybe sown to cause discontent and fracture us. We are wise of counsel, the crew perhaps not so much. So let the words spoken to us for our king's ears stay for his only.
Of course.
Basically, I don't want any of the crew overhearing and dooming us.
So you're approaching Vormhold again. Your home, the king's home, and you walk through the city, up the many stairs, across the bridge, and back up towards the palace itself. A attendant tells you, "Oh, the king, he's on the balcony." And you can walk up there again and see on this sort of snowy balcony the king standing, looking out over towards the mountain. You're back. What news?
I turn with the others, hopefully, and look to Aesgeir, or Valda, sorry.
I was going to say...
What was his name? The Jotun king?
He never said. His name is Amlofi.
Oh, we never even got his name.
We would have heard of it.
Well, we should have.
Yeah, you would know it.
Amlofi, you said, yeah?
Yeah.
He has denied your terms. He refuses to scuttle his navy, and he refuses put himself under your protection and leadership. He countered by trying to turn us against you. He told us a tale of your father. Said that he had made some kind of unholy pact with creatures known as the Alfer. That this is how he became powerful enough to unite Iskloft. Lothi is a desperate man leading the desperate people. They know they are losing. So it does not surprise me that he would try to turn us against each other, give themselves respite. He says that you yourself are some kind of a creature, not a man. He says that we are fools to follow you. But we are your men, and we've come back here to inform you of these tales. It was very hard, but I managed not to kill any of them while I was there.
He kind of like nods slowly as you're speaking. A bit of a grin appears in his face when you mention not killing anyone. This again. For many years, the Jotun have spread such rumors about my line. They don't understand how my father could have been so great, how he could have conquered so much. And yet, how could he have been touched by the Alfer when he sits at the right hand of Odin? It is good that you came to me and you spoke honestly about this. I have put out the word. The banners are being called. Even now, the Jarls make ready to attack.
I have news for you, Lord. There are roughly 500 of the Jotunaett that we saw within their city. It seems emptier than you would expect. Many malnourished, though still considerable a threat. And their more noble numbers, a few tens, and then the king himself. They seem reasonably fed and equipped. An attack via sea is almost impossible. Sorry, Ian, do you want to...
No, continue. Sorry, I thought you were done.
An attack via sea is almost impossible, so guarded is the cove, both naturally and through their own machinations. Our ships dwarfed by their own. It is even a difficult climb to get from the sea level to their docks. Many would die if they defended that area.
500, you say?
At least that we saw. I cannot say it was thorough reconnaissance, but I thought you would be interested in what little I'd managed to gather.
Yeah, you see his hand come up and he kind of like scratches the back of his head kind of frantically as he kind of thinks. He like bites his nails. 500, that doesn't make any sense. There should be much more than that there. No, attack by ship is not possible. They are superior on the water. would have to be by land.
It is possible that they're hiding their numbers, that they would want us to think they were weaker than they are.
Perhaps they're showing themselves to be weak so that we are lulled into a false sense of security. Yes, that seems possible.
When there was the talk of his heritage, like, did I see anything? Because I would have been on guard from having, seen the unnatural sights before. I didn't read anything off him.
Let you make a retroactive insight check.
Or while I'm talking to him now, just curious if there's a greed to his eyes or something. Insight or perception?
Yes. Insight, please.
I actually trained in insight. That's a non-natural 20.
Okay, so you would have seen, I guess, like the scratching of his head, the biting of his nails, and like the quickened pace of his voice. He seems unbalanced, more so than usual, as you're speaking to him. Although there was no sign of like guilt or recognition when the heritage was mentioned.
Okay.
Have I noticed his teeth yet? Because I did not notice them before.
He hasn't smiled widely. He tends to speak with a very closed-lipped sort of way.
The Jotunaett seem to fear death, my king. The ships we saw were in good condition, but if you just give the word, I'll be happy to take some of our own and go against their navy.
They fear death because there's no Valhalla awaiting them, only the fires of Muspelheim.
One of his court members, I don't know what he was, mentioned the genocide of their people carried out in the name of our gods. Perhaps it is time for us to finish that job, to put the final point on the word, as it were.
Yes, you are right. That's what we must do. We must eradicate them from this place. They are a tumor that grows and grows. Must be excised.
I'm trying to kind of goad him into smiling.
Yeah, he's getting animated. I think when he shouts yes, you'd probably be able to see. He does have sharp canines, pointed.
Do they seem Fey-like to me? Do I know anything about that from my knowledge and history? And
I don't think they would seem Fey-like. They just don't seem human,
As he begins to get animated, we see Orn's hackles rise. We hear him growling. He begins to walk in a circle in the center of this conversation. And he says, when the wolf pack wants to draw out a dog, they send in a bitch in heat. I propose we do the same thing. He drops down onto the ground and he cuts the palm of his hand, and in blood he draws a circle on the stone. He says, this is where our enemy lies. He draws some hatch marks around it. This is where we shall circle them like the pack. We shall be the fangs of the wolf. And you see he's got a wolf skin, sort of a satchel, and he pulls out these sharpened bones. They're like sharpened bone daggers, and he tosses them one by one through the air to his companions. 1, 2, 3. He turns to and tosses the last one towards the king. Except this is not a bone. This is an iron climbing python.
With like incredible reflexes, like he's not looking. He's looking like at the circle very intently, and you can see like his eyes focusing that. But you throw something in his hand, grabs it. He continues looking as he like looks at the python in his hand, and then he like can't seem to let go of it. He like begins squeezing it, like his fist is clenching around it. You see his knuckles whiten as he like grips it really tightly, and he's looking at it, and his eyes widen, and they look at you. And he like takes his other hand, he begins to peel back the fingers from the python, and it clatters to the ground. And you can see that there is this like hideous wound, like an acid burn in the palm of his right hand where he had caught this thing. Just for a second, he like puts it into the robes that he's wearing, and he looks and he says, "Yes, we will encircle them. That is the best thing to do. Go on."
Orn's hands drop to the ground. He has become a wolf. He howls, "Ow!" and turns to his companions with his teeth bared.
I look to Beobrand and Aushkir with a half-cocked eyebrow, and I look then again to Orn and the king.
What is the meaning of this?
And I say, "Are you okay, my king? You seem to have been wounded."
An allergy. It runs in my family. Skaga, control your pet. And his eyes are like wide and wild.
How many guards are on this balcony or outside his chamber door? Or
you're alone on the balcony, but like within calling distance, there's Huskarls and the like, maybe 10.
I think, like his hands, the hand on my spear is tightening, and looking towards Bayo, just trying to gauge his reaction to our worst concern.
And I'm getting closer and closer to the king. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, I'm just keeping my face implacable. I'm not moving at the moment.
I'm standing close to the king, kind of maybe between him and Orn, and looking at everyone kind of warily to see how this is going to play out.
And Skaga would step in between Dagrun and Orn, and with her back to Dagrun so that he can't see her tracing a rune on her staff of the Ansus, and she'll be invoking the runic power that she won't quite use just yet, but she'll kind of put out a calming hand to Orn and be all sorry. It's like now no need to get feisty, and then she'll turn, kind of circling him a bit so that she's standing behind him and with her quarterstaff in front of her, but just kind of watching the others.
Dagrun looks furious, and he looks at you, Orin, and he says, "You will apologize for your behavior. What is this? This howling. This..."
Owen stands to his feet. It is not the king's words that calmed him, but the words of the sorceress. He stands up. The thought of blood. Blood of my enemies. I am Moonchild. It fills me with rage.
He looks at you, Skaga, with this look of disappointment. And he says, "Well, back to the plan. You are my counsel. What is the approach?"
I think Iska would look across and see that his companion's unwilling to act on this intel, so he would continue forward in his probably quite soldierly way with various descriptions of the layout of the city from what he could see, and if there were any passageways or crevices or something that could be attacked across. Was this like on the side of a mountain directly abutting the sea, or were there like land routes that he could?
Yeah, so basically there's like a cove protected by these cliffs or whatever, and it leads into a bay. And that's where like the city is on the bay, but then the castle is like on a cliff there. So you could come through the mountains from land if you so wished. But it is really well defended. Like, it's a natural fortress as well as like a man-made one, you know?
I mean, he would suggest that some sort of coordinated attack.
And he's nodding vigorously. He's like, yes. But you can see that like his right arm is shaking as he's holding it in his robe. Yes, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to have to. We will continue this in the morning.
Allow me to help.
Yes, Skaga would step forward as well.
I'll try to cast Cure Wounds on him.
Okay.
Great, I don't even know how that works in this game anymore. How many dice is that?
It's a D8, I think.
D8 plus your modifier.
Plus my charisma modifier?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's 10.
Yeah, so you do so, and the light like washes over him, but his arm continues to shake badly as he holds it in his robe. I appreciate the sentiment, but really, I'm unwell. You're dismissed. And begins walking.
Skaga would have been like approaching him, and as you know, she came up behind Valdir, she would kind of slam her staff in the stone in between them and activate the rune she traced on her staff, and would be invoking the power for the Ansu's rune as she's presenting the symbol of Tyr upon her staff, and creatures, or let's see, she's basically using her staff as an object to ward off Fae that are hostile to the Aesir. And so if he is truly Fey, Dagrun would need to make a charisma saving throw or move 5 feet away from me.
Okay. What's the DC?
17.
So he's like shaking, his arm is shaking. And he's like looking uncomfortable. His eyes are like wide. And you can tell there's fear there. And he's like walking towards the door. He goes head down as he's walking towards the door. And you present this. And the room glows. And there's like this silence for a second. And he like begins to walk backwards. Doesn't look natural. It looks like he's being forced to step forwards. But when he does so, he actually ends up further away from you. And his eyes narrow. And you roll initiative.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was rad.
As long as the symbol is boldly and aggressively presented, which requires an action each round, the creature cannot touch or make melee attacks against me.
Oh, nice.
That's a 15 for my initiative.
Whew, damn. Shall we add treason to the list of your crime?
No true king. He's not human. He has no blood of man.
That's not true.
So we're on a balcony, right?
Yep.
Yes, you are.
I wish we had a sketch of it. So
So it's kind of
where is?
if you imagine the throne, like behind the throne, there's a door that leads out, and there's this circular balcony that is part of like the cliff.
Semicircular, I presume.
Yes, semicircular. Sorry, and it's probably from the door to like the furthest edge, 20 feet, and roughly the same. Jesus Christ, I can't describe a circle. It's about 20 foot each way, and yeah, there's like a mosaic on the floor. There's no rail or anything. And he had been walking back towards the door, so he's maybe 15 feet from the edge, which is, I'm sure, what you were looking for.
Where is Skaga?
Skaga is between him and the door.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, just about done with this list. Okay, so he is moving away from you, Skaga, stepping backwards involuntarily as he's trying to move forwards. He comes to like 5 feet away from you, and then he like hits the ground again. His eyes like flare, and he pulls his like hand out of his robe. You can see like the hand looks like it's been badly burnt, and it's moved up to like his elbow, as if he's had like acid poured on it. Even so, he points that hand in your direction, and a beam of light shoots from it.
I would like to use my reaction to counterspell it.
I would if I were you, because it's a crit.
So let's see, counterspell. I will go ahead and do it at a 4th level. So if it's 4th level or lower, it just fizzles as you know she is presenting this staff with like the symbol of the Aesir upon it.
So he goes, and this beam of light like shoots from his fingers and coalesces into like a ball of green, fires towards you, but then like the rune flashes, and like this like almost force field of light appears, and the spell vanishes. He looks on in horror, and he exhales. and fog begins to cloud the balcony, icy cold. All of a sudden, and that's the end of his turn. Valder, you next.
Right. Okay. I say,
You broke up there, Ian. What'd
Yep.
you say?
this is Dagrun Smite.
Shit, you cut out there, Ian. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, sorry, you didn't hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I said, what are you doing? This is our king! And I cast Staggering Smite, and I attack Skaga with my War Axe.
Shit.
Oh, no.
Oh, baby.
So my first attack is a 25.
Yeah, that'll hit.
Which will do 11 points of damage plus the Staggering Smite, which I'm going to look up real quick again. I had it, but I went to look up another spell just in case we do something else. I think it's 46 extra damage. Let me double check. Staggering
Jeez,
Smite.
what level are you casting at?
Is it a 4th level spell? Yeah, it's a 4th level spell.
Oh, jeez.
And it does 46 psychic damage on top of the weapon damage. So that's going to be an additional 11 plus 7, 18. So 11 from the axe itself, and then 18 from the psychic damage. Now you have to make a wisdom saving throw. DC 15.
You said wisdom?
Yeah, wisdom, DC 15.
Yeah. Damn, so close. 14.
So on a failed save, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks and cannot take any reactions until the end of your next turn.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Oh, man.
And then I hit her with my second attack.
Oh, my God.
And that's a 20 to hit, but it only does 6 damage.
You
Okay.
some bitch.
So Valder heroically defends his liege lord king, attacking this sorceress, this witch who deals in satyr magic, forbidden elven things, as she attacks her liege lord. Oren, you see Valder attack Skaga. It is your turn.
Poised to strike at this creature that we've just exposed, seeing the treachery of his companion attacking one of the few two-legged things on this land of Iskloft that he holds dear, there is a roar. It is a combination of wolf growl and man bellow as he leaps forward. I imagine that as the fog is filling this balcony, we can see lit from inside, like sort of a glowing portal from the inner chamber, and we see a silhouette leap through the air. Half man, half wolf, his arms raised high, and you see the held in the hands are 2 fangs of a Donnerulf as he lunges himself towards this betrayer. So, Ian, what is your armor class, please?
17.
Okay, that's going to be 4 hits, my friend.
4 hits?
4 hits.
Can I use my... Is that 1 attack or is that 4 attacks?
It's 4 separate attacks.
4 separate attacks.
I rolled a 19, a 17, a 26, and a 26.
No problem.
Oh, wait a minute. Is it a bonus action to go into rage? Is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so never
On
mind.
the first turn.
Yeah, sorry. So that's only 2 hits. I couldn't have done those second hits. I apologize. I don't play barbarians often, so.
Okay. In that case, I would like to use my... wait, are we going to use that optional rule, Lloyd, or no? Not going to use the shield be splintered?
Yeah, we're using it, yeah.
Okay, I'll use it on his on his second attack.
Okay. So the
his
first strike
attack
goes through. The second one.
is full damage. Second attack is completely absorbed by the shield, but destroys the shield.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I imagine these two fangs come down. One completely shatters the shield. The other one stabs down to your neck. At the last moment, it turns to the side, and I'm going to use my Ulfendar ability to expend 3 motherfucking beast points and make this a critical hit.
Oh, Jesus.
So that is total. This total is still not going to be that much, but this is fucking Iskloft in critical hits.
Yep, it's bad times.
It's a total of 13 points of damage, Ian.
Okay, got it.
Lands on the ground in front of you, just snarling, growling, furious, enraged.
Can you roll me a percentile, Ian?
Sure, percentile you say, yeah?
Yeah.
65.
So perfect. So, Lucas, explain to me how Valder loses an eye.
Holy shit, absolutely. I imagine that the shield goes up and this Ulfendar, this thing of blue and black woad, shatters through the shield like lightning. The other fang, the fang of Adonarulf, comes down too late, indefensible, and pierces through his eye. I imagine that there's a gout of blood and oozing of ocular fluid as he lands on the ground in front of his enemy.
Oh boy. Okay. That was fucking rad. Skaga.
All right. Feeling really angry that the Scald fucking just stabbed her in the back. She will kind of shout out that it's no true. Oh, fine, whatever. Well, well, she was going to use a sorcery point to quicken spell so that she could continue presenting the symbol towards the creature that is not their king. She will instead use 4 sorcery. No, that's semantics. 5 sorcery points to do a twinned blight spell at level 5 towards Valder and Dagrun. So that's going to be 98, and you guys have a Constitution saving throw to make.
I think blight is less bad if they're not plants, right?
It's still 8d8, but if they were plants, they make their saving throw with disadvantage.
Okay, wow, nice.
So it's a necrotic damage, as so that like Skaga's probably like exposed runes on her arms is probably calling forth some of the power of Giftion to do some nasty anti-life gimmicks. So Constitution saving throws.
13. What's the DC?
17.
I fail.
Oh my gosh, that is so many 5s. Oh, look at that, some 8s. Oh baby, that's 49 points of damage to you, Valdir.
Fuck.
And how did Dagrun do? 49.
49. I have 1 hit point left.
Jesus. It's brutal. Dagrun made the save, so he takes half, right? So he'll take 25.
Yeah. I would imagine that Skaga is pretty pissed off.
And I imagine that Valder, like, if you want to describe how the spell looks, I imagine whatever it is, it brings Valder down to 1 knee. His shield now splintered. He's still holding his war axe in his right hand.
Yeah, since you were
pouring out of where his one eye used to be.
I think since you were like right next to her, and Orin had just shattered your shield and took out your eye, she probably just placed a hand on your shoulder and drew out the life essence from with her magics. And as she pointed a finger towards Dagrun to basically siphon the energy from him as well.
Nice. And whereas I was already like pushing 50, what long white hair and beard, now I'm looking even older and more decrepit.
But still standing tall, protecting your king, or maybe kneeling tall, protecting your king, as this witch fires necromantic energy into the air, attacking both the king and his loyal protector.
Oh, my family will be waiting for me in the halls of Valhalla.
They sure will.
He will sow her own fate.
Beobrand. Oh, sorry, Askir. Sorry,
Askir.
I have a feeling you know why I know why you're so eager for this. So I'm going to turn to Beo and just, what do we do? Like really quickly, just I presume we've fought together quite a lot. Being the soldiers, like, I'm trying to read your intent. Who are you going to leap at?
I'm just going to look back at you implacably, rooted to the spot like a statue. My hands are like quivering over the hilt of my sword, and there's tears streaming down my glassy blue eyes, like mingling into the dreadlocked white blonde beard. But his teeth chatter, he cannot respond for a moment. And then he says, follow your heart, if you'll be the shield or the sword. Or you have a spear, right? So it would say whether you'll be the spear or the shield.
Oh, damn it.
Thanks, Scott. That's probably just screaming about unnatural creatures pretending to be their jarl or their king.
As you cast Blight.
Yeah.
Not pretending, he is our king.
Go on, Asgeir. You got a higher initiative than me, so take it.
Well, that's why I was asking for your command, but hoping it would make it easier on me.
Oh, if that's the case, protect your king.
Right, that's the way you went, is it? Good. I am going to... There's something I really want to do, but checks are just going to moan at me when I do it, so I'm going to do it anyway. We're on a balcony up a cliff, right?
we are, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that far to the edge of the balcony.
It's about 20 feet from where you are.
So I should be able to grab someone and hurl them over the balcony.
Yes.
Can I and I can do it to anyone who's currently on this balcony.
I mean, if you can beat them in a grapple check, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to grab Bayo and then throw him over.
Jesus.
Because I imagine we were standing next to each other. That's an 18 on the dice, plus 9. 27.
I fail.
So I look to him for a command, as we probably had many times over, but I am, having already been thinking about the king being this evil monster for so long, my heart breaks slightly, as much as a Viking can, when he says protect the king, and I just look sadly at him and then grab him and pull him towards the balcony and hurl him over.
Whoa! Fucking dog.
Rushing air rushes past you as you begin to plummet, Beobrand. But it is your turn.
That's one attack. I have another.
Oh.
I'm going to take one of the throwing spears that I have, and I'm going to hurl it at the skeld.
Okay.
Hang on, I've just realised, aren't we all in mystical dark cloudiness?
Fog. Yeah, it won't have an effect till next turn.
Right. Okay. Then I hoist one of the spears, and that's 17 on the die.
Gonna hit my armor class of 16.
Okay. Right. That was plus 9.
Wouldn't it be 15 now with your shield gone?
No, it was 17 before.
I thought shields were 2. Never mind.
And the throwing spears, I believe there are D10 in this on your list.
Well, it doesn't matter what you roll if he's at 1 hit point.
Yeah, that was a full 10 damage, plus 5 for the modifier, as the throwing spear buries into his chest.
Yeah, the spear takes me in the side of the chest, and I fall on my right side, unconscious and bleeding.
End the foulness! End it now! I shout at the wolf and the sorceress.
Whew. Beobrand, is there anything you'd like to do as you fall?
I clutch my sword about its hilt, as if in a prayer, but then I lift it up midair and try and strike it into the side of the building to try and hold myself. If it's made of sheer stone, I'll try and find some incongruency to grapple hold of as I fall. Okay, go for it. You can give me an athletics. 14. Sorry, that's a 17. 17. Okay. Yeah. So the sword, you begin to and sparks are flying and stuff, and eventually it just shunts into a little gap in the rock. The blade bends so that you're holding it directly above you. It's bent almost at a 90-degree angle, and you're holding the sword with both hands. But you have stopped falling. 10 Huskarls rush out onto the balcony. They see a witch casting spells at their king. They see a loyal servant trying to protect the king, dying. And they rush forward to attack. What is your armor class, Asker?
My armor class is 20.
Okay.
Because I've got the plated mail and the kite shield. Oh,
yep.
and the helm. So it's 21, isn't it? No, it is 20 because you reduced the AC.
Okay. So then, out of 6, 2 of them managed to connect.
Okay. In that case, I will start using some superiority die. I'll riposte one of the ones that missed.
Okay.
To make a strike at him. Does a 17 hit a Huskar?
It does not.
Right. Okay.
They're dressed almost the same way as you.
Fair enough.
So the 2 hits altogether is 27.
Okay.
So 2 of them with these big axes come in and starts left, or 6 of them. Only 2 of them manage to connect. The other 4 rush over to the witch and are going to try and take her down. What's your armor class, Gaga?
14.
Oh dear. Okay, so 3 of them. Ooh, man. 33 damage.
All right, then. I'm still up.
So 3 of them, 4 of them rush over. 3 of them just with these big axes, just big and hacking. You feel a punishing blow to your right thigh, and one into the back, just under your rib cage, and another into the shoulder blades. As they shout, "Protect the king!"
And she'll kind of scream at them, "You fools! Look at his hand. He bears the mark of Loki. He is no man. He is no king."
Ooh.
We shall see. Let those girls back to the king. Oh my. I'm going to need you to make a intelligence saving throw, please, Skaga.
Okie dokie. Let's see. What do I got on intelligence? All right. Ooh, that's a natural 20.
So what's your total?
20.
Okay, you take That is 9 psychic damage.
Mm-hmm.
Your intelligence charisma scores become 1.
Oh my god.
You can't cast spells, activate magic items, understand language, communicate in any intelligible way. You can, however, identify your friends, follow them, and even protect them. So he looks at you, and you can hear like his voice in your mind. It's not his voice; it's like some hideous sort of sibilant whispering, and it says something. You could have kept your mouth shut. Could have had it all. Now you will live imprisoned inside your own head. It's the last thing you hear before everything just kind of turns grey. That is his turn. Valder, make a death saving throw, please.
Gladly. Let's see here. That's a failure.
Okay. Orn. Orn, you there?
Sorry, I was muted. As this battle erupts, spells fly, the air cold with a preternatural winter. Orn sees his quarry, and with a lupine grace, he barrels forward towards the king. I would imagine he's probably going to provoke some attacks of opportunity from the Huskarls. Let me know if they do.
Where were you standing? You were by...
I was right by the sorceress.
Okay, then yes.
Yeah, well, he was standing over me, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was by Valder.
So would he have to move to get into range of Dagrun?
Like 5 feet, but you're... Like, you wouldn't have to leave. You weren't, like, engaged with the guards, so you're fine. You can run.
Fine. So with a single leap, he leaps through the air, and his body collides into this would-be king. There is a ferocious onslaught of fangs, his own, the fangs of the Donnerwolf, as he scrapes, scratches, stabs, claws, and bites, trying to end this thing's life. So I rolled 4 attacks. The lowest one was an 11.
Against the king?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that misses?
The next was a 17.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so 3 hits. So that's going to do 3d6 plus the damage and the rage damage. It's going to do a total of 32 points of damage.
Nice.
And I imagine that he just claws and tears, and it might end up with him grabbing this king's arm, the burnt arm, and just biting deep into it, trying to sever it from the bone.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're like tearing hunks of flesh off this like already withered arm. You can see that there's bone showing underneath as the arm like writhes, and the fingers like move involuntarily as you like tear at tendons and stuff within his arm. But he doesn't cry out in pain. He gives you this like look. His head kind of like turns and looks down at you, and there is madness in those eyes, unquestionably. Okay, Skaga, what would you like to do?
Did the Housecarls have any type of reaction to seeing Dagrun casting spells? I'm just asking for myself.
I guess it didn't look like he cast a spell. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay.
It wasn't like he didn't fire anything at you. You know, it was more like a psychic attack.
Right. All right. Well, I think kind of like whenever that went over her, she just kind of like face goes blank, and like where like she was probably like, you know, all angry and self-righteous looking. She just kind of like face goes into like an expressionless mask. That I recognize my friends and enemies, correct?
You recognize your friends, yeah.
All right. So I guess not really. I guess let's see. I think only thing that would really make sense would be that she would kind of like hold her quarterstaff in front of her defensively to take like a dodge action as she's like kind of bewildered at what has happened.
So I think like your eyes have gone glassy, and the Huskars probably think that they've killed you. You know, like your stance vanishes and you just kind of become a bit more slumped as you hold the staff, ready to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Asger.
So first of all, I'm going to heal for 17 points using the second wind.
Okay.
So I imagine they're all like running onto this balcony and slashing, and there's lots of dodging and weaving going on, and the adrenaline kicks in. This is going to get interesting. See how many of these I can throw over. So first contested athletics.
Okay, he's got a 21.
I also got a 21. That's convenient. Are you doing the Nico opposition aggressive thing? Right. So like the first guy runs at him and he kind of just barrels him over, because I imagine he's standing right near the edge, like with his shield, and just pushes him up and over the cliff. Next attack, I will do the same. This time it is 17.
Here's a 22.
Right. I'm then going to action surge and try pull on him again. That time for 22.
Okay. Yep, you get him.
Okay, so initially he doesn't come with, and then I like maybe spin, hit him in the back of the leg, and like hike him over again. And then the last one, I will go and engage. Oh, that's a 19 on the dice, so that's 27. 28?
Yeah, he can't beat you.
28. Yeah. And then I just kind of look at the next one, crick my neck, and then just like hold him and throw him right the way over and turn back to the others. You can all take a trip down there, or you can attack that demon of a king.
Those Huskars are focused on the witch, and they see you like throw all their friends over the edge, and it just confirms the treachery and the treason in their minds.
Very well.
Beobrand, you're hanging onto the side of the cliff, and you see all these Huskars just like plummeting. You see them like one of them is falling. His axe has gone out of his hands, and he's like desperately reaching for the axe, trying to hold on to it so that he can get to the afterlife. You see them plummeting past you as you climb. I assume that's a yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, I'm climbing.
Yeah, nice. So the remaining Huskars are going to try and down the witch. So that's 3 hits. Oh, wait, you're dodging, right?
Yes, so be disadvantaged.
Okay, I'll roll again. So. Okay, that one misses. That one still hits. That one misses. That one hits. So 2 hits. For 16 damage.
Yep, unconscious.
So you're kind of like blocking as best you can with your quarterstaff, and you like block one strike of an axe, but there's like a chip already in the quarterstaff. It begins to splinter. The second one smashes into the quarterstaff, smashes all the way through and into your shoulder, and there's this gout of blood as you fall to your knees. Okay, that was the Huskarls. The king is going to, let's see, he's dealing with an insane Ulfar. What's he going to do? He's very aware of the fact that there are Huskarls here watching him.
Give it a turn or two and there won't be any more.
He is going to disengage from you, and he's going to run towards the door of the hall and runs. So that's Dagrun. Baldur, another death save, please.
Would Orn get an attack of opportunity when he runs, or did you say
disengaged.
disengage? Oh, sorry, I wasn't. I'm brain part.
So yeah, Baldur, a death save, please.
I rolled a natural 1.
Oh man, okay. So that's the end.
So I'm coughing up blood and trying to pull the spear out of my side. And as I get it out, I pull the spear out, and I just see my lifeblood flowing out over my own hands. And I say, in my last kind of gasping, bloody, dying breaths, "We, the rear guard, held the hounds at bay. Once the shield wall broke death and destruction, now my breaths come slowly. My sword held tightly in my hand. This was a good day. Sing the song of my life. Odin Father, take me home. Come, Valkyrie, I am ready. My eyes close on this world. My love's vision, the last." And I keel over and let out a death rattle and just,
Fucking
lie
rad.
there bleeding on the balcony.
It's perfect. In your last moments, you're like clutching at your sword, and you can see the light from above, clouds parting. Orn, the king has fled from you.
I would like to shout at Orn. I would like to shout at him, "Pitten, give me a pitten!" Or I don't know if you respond because you're all berserk, but I would shout that at you.
I don't know if I would. Here, let's make a roll. We'll take a 50-50. Okay, I guess I'll respond. Do you think, Lloyd, could I toss him a pitten as a
interaction?
Free action?
Yeah, it's your interaction. It's all good.
As an interaction, okay. I imagine that there's the Skald says aloud his death poem, and even though we're in the midst of this fray, seeing that light in the air, I imagine that there's a brief moment of silence, which is pierced by a howl. Ow! We see Orn toss the python to his companion and launch forward on all fours, running like a quadruped, sprinting across to try to close the difference between him and the king. So I took the mobile feat and
you can get him, no question.
I can get him. Okay, yeah, no problem. So imagine that he launches himself through the air and lands on the king's back. The first attack was a 13, so that misses, I'm guessing. Yep. The next lowest was a 17.
Yeah, you're good for the rest.
All right, and one of those was a natural 20.
Oh my, okay.
So this is going to hurt. So that's going to be, let's see here. Normally it'd be 3d6, but it's going to be 5d6 because of brutal critical. 5d6 plus 18. Oh, so a total of 29 points of damage. And I imagine that he lands on the back of this thing. This would-be king, this pretender to the throne in Orn's eyes. And he stabs down both daggers down underneath the collarbone of the king as his canine maw reaches around and he bites the motherfucking throat of this son of a bitch, trying to rip it out.
Awesome. Can you roll me a percentile, please?
Sure. Percentile. Shit. Yeah, here we go. 60.
Okay, yeah. So you bite into the throat and you rip a big chunk out, and it's just like gushing blood, just at incredible speed. You've like slashed into him with claws. He's bleeding from every orifice, every new orifice that you have made for him. He has an internal injury. He has to make a con save before he takes an action in combat, otherwise he can't act.
Holy shit, that's a bad one. Also,
bad one.
it probably doesn't come into play right now, but I did take the Iskloft custom feat Brutal Killer. So once he drops to 8 hit points, he's going to drop to 0.
Right, nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you just are brutal. He's like standing in the doorway, almost in the hall, and he's like running in his robes. His like arm is like already torn to shreds. And as he like thinks he's safe in the doorway, this like wolf leaps on his back and begins tearing him apart. He lets out this like shrill scream that echoes through the hall. And oh my god, that was rad. So Skaga, you were unconscious. Would you like to make a death save?
I would love to make a death save. That's a natural 20, so I come back to 1.
Rad. Okay. So the Huskars like have basically left off since you were done for. They're not looking.
I am protected by Odin.
Yes, so it seems. Although you don't remember how to say the word Odin, unfortunately.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so I think you do, like that's your turn. You do it at the end of your turn, right?
Yes.
Okay, Asgeir.
Can I reach the Pretender King?
Yeah, if you run, you don't even need to run. It's not that far.
Oh, so I can still get an action at the end of it?
Yep.
Right. I imagine this quite epic throw before the wolf man howls across this blustery balcony over the heads of all of these Huskars, and he catches the Pitten in the air, facing downwards like a dagger, ready to strike. I think at this point he's probably, well, if I can drop my shield or put the spear on the back or something, and he catches it, he chases with the Wolfman into this, I don't know, bed chamber or something, or meat council chamber. And then what I want to try and do is grab the king by the throat and ram the Pitten into his mouth. Seeing that the raw iron did to his arms, I imagine if he has his mouth closed around one, it would do something awful.
Okay, I like it. It's cinematic. It's rad. So I'll say make me a grapple check, and then if you get above a 20 in your attack roll, that's what happens.
Unfortunately, I narrowly miss the 20 set.
Okay.
I do have a second attack.
Yeah, go for it
again. And 13 on the dice plus 9.
Okay, so Orin is on the back of the king, like tearing him apart. You can see there's like blood spraying from his neck, and you like are soaked in that as you kind of walk around. You take the Pitten as you're like holding him in place, and you shove it into his mouth. You can like hear the breaking teeth cracking as you shove a Pitten into his mouth, and you see like immediately like black veins spread from there into his eyes, over his face, and he falls down onto the ground and then onto his face.
I would say, as I was doing it, maybe like pinning him up against the doorway or something, I forsook my own name, so my glory was that of the gods, and you have betrayed them. See to your fate. And he like steps back as he drops down, bubbling.
Unreal. So he falls down a puddle, and it's at this stage, Beobrand, that you would like your hand would like come to the top of the cliff, and you can begin to see that in the doorway of the hall, Orn and Asgeir are standing over the bloodied and murdered form of the king.
What about the Huskars?
They haven't gone yet. They're looking in horror, like they're going to run over there as soon as they get a chance.
I'll delay my action till after theirs.
Okay. Yeah, those Huskars sprint as quickly as they can over in that direction, raising their axes high. And you can see that inside the hall now, there's like this uproar, and everyone in there is standing up, grabbing weapons and like running as quickly as they can towards the door. There's probably 50 people in this room, and probably about 30 of them are like armed and running. The Huskars are going to run up, and they're going to attack Orn since he is not looking at them.
I've been recklessly attacking, so I think they'll have advantage on their attack rolls.
Excellent. Okay, and what's your armor class?
Armor class is 17.
Okay, so it's 3 hits and a critical hit.
All right.
Okay, so. Alright. Okay. So it's 32 damage.
Okay, since I'm raging, it's just going to be half that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the crit is 70. Oh. All right. So these motherfuckers like run up behind you as you're like about to devour their king, and like all at once they strike, like, boom, one to the shoulder, boom, one to the like back, right into the center of your back, boom, one to the leg, and one as you're like raising an arm to slash down into the king's body and grab a hunk of meat, boom, through the elbow, and your forearm scatters, falling, separated from your body.
Oh, that's so brutal. That's awesome.
Yeah, it just as they stand over you. What the hell is your name? Beobrand, you readied your action to move when the Huskarls did.
I'm going to move up to the sorceress who attacked our king. And while she's like feebly about decapitate her.
Yeah, go for it.
Crit.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm pretty sure it'd be a crit anyway,
16.
because he's probably still prone.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the crit will bring it to 0, so the next one is going to be 2 failed death saves.
Okay, so I don't need to roll damage.
No, but do roll a percentile to see if it's instant death.
89.
89, so that goes up to 99 because she's been unconscious. Yeah, so at the end of your next turn, you die, Skaga.
Sweet.
I'll kick her head aside, trailing the blade with me as I approach the melee beyond. I'm going to break into a run and action surge upon the man who pushed me over the edge.
Nice.
I'm going to feint for my bonus action, so I'll have advantage on the first of these. Ooh, 15. It's probably a miss.
No, that doesn't hit, I'm afraid.
The second. Okay. 23.
That will.
Okay. Can you please make a wisdom save for me, Dan?
I can. What's your DC?
14.
17 on the dice, plus 2 for 19.
Cool. So that will be 7, 6, 13 plus 7, 20 slashing.
Okay.
Yeah, so Beobrand just like runs up through the foggy mist, surprisingly, I would assume, and thrusts his blade into the back of Asgeir.
Yeah, perfect. You can see inside the hall, like people are getting up and they're running in this direction. People are shouting, the king is dead. Dagrun is dead, so he won't be acting. Balder is also dead. Orin, it is your turn.
There is that moment of peace that Ulfindar feels when they bring down their quarry. And as he prepared to feast on the remains of the king, he was assailed by his huskarls. The blows struck deep, cleaving his arm from the elbow down. But this was nothing to the pain that he felt when he saw Beobrand emerge and take the head of the one two-legged creature that he held most dear in this world. And with a roar, the roar of a man, the roar, no, he charges towards Beobrand, his claws and his teeth bared, as he goes into a frenzied attack upon him.
Okay, the Huskarls are going to opportunity attack you.
I mean, we were standing right next to each other, and Beobrand's attacked me. So isn't he close?
I'm not standing next to Orn.
Yeah, you'd have to move to get to the Huskarls. Yeah, you'd have to move a little bit.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take the opportunity attacks.
Let's see. Okay. So it will be 18 slashing damage from 2 hits.
Okay, 18 halved to 9.
Yep.
And as Orn launches himself forward, I imagine that he feels the impact, but he feels no pain. He is numb to the world, everything that he's ever known has shattered around him. He is a thing of bestial rage. So, Nico, my lowest roll was a 17. What's your armor class?
That's the magic number. That is my armor class.
Is it really? Okay, well, there were no crits, so... God damn, rolling with advantage is some serious shit.
No fucking around, yeah.
All right, so that's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to be 4d6 plus 24. That's 32 points of damage.
Lordship, you do me a great honor.
And I imagine that the spectacled helm is all that saves Orn from losing an eye, as the one dagger-like tooth of the Donnerulf comes down. But he reaches underneath, I imagine in the soft spot underneath the armpit where your armor cannot protect you. I imagine the Ulfendar fangs dig deep and pull a hunk of your pectoral muscle out.
Rip.
Ouch.
I scream in pain. This chain bursts. Flesh is pilfered.
Skaga, your last moments are of your head sailing through the air and looking at your headless body. Any last thoughts? Actually, you can't even think. You've won intelligence.
Yep. It's just a series of ...
A grim end, but a fitting one for a witch and a treasonous one at that. Or so the narrative will say. Asgeir.
So Asgeir turns, having been stabbed in the back by his friend, but I suppose it's only fair. And you're saying there's a whole bunch of people outside of the halls, running around, panicking, or coming towards a direction.
In the hall, so if you imagine there's this big hall, and at the back of the hall behind the throne, there's a door that leads to the balcony.
Okay.
And so they've seen now what's happened. The king walked to the doorway, and so there's probably about 30 warriors moving from the hall towards you guys.
Yeah, something we are never going to survive.
Yes.
I like to think I dropped my shield and had the iron pit in the other hand, so I still have the Odin spear in my hand, and I turn and give a smile to Vermar, maybe while he's being eaten and he doesn't see, but I almost like some sort of firebrand preacher turn to all of these people and spear out, and the other empty hand just out towards them, say, "Witness, the son of Odin has slain the corrupted line. Now men shall rule men, and we shall be free." And then, I know you've said he's already dead, but I plunge the spear into the chest of the king, and without, still quite heavily armored and everything, but without weapons, I just hold my hands out, ready to be hacked to pieces.
Rad. The mob. Hang on. It's actually Beobrand, isn't it? Yep.
I lost my initiative to the Huskarls.
Oh, you did, yeah. So the Huskarls turn to this creature that is determined to kill this conquering hero who has returned from the mist, trying to protect their king. They're going to try and attack it. You attacked recklessly last turn, Lucreus, right?
I did indeed.
Okay. Oh shit. Yeah, so it's 2 hits and a crit. It's not 3 hits and a crit, but there is a crit in there. So it's 22 slashing.
All right, let's get those percentiles going. Am I rolling or you rolling?
You roll it.
All right, here we go. 31.
Okay, and you've been crit before, so it's 41. Oh my god. So it gets worse. So they're hacking at you, and like you're like trying to defend as best you can with your other arm, trying to slash these axes out of the way. But one of them, with the butt of the axe, like catches your forearm and just smashes it. There's an audible snap. Your arm is broken. Your other arm.
Oh my god, my second arm is broken. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you attack with your teeth.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, you basically can't hold anything.
Holy shit. Okay.
So you're just like this
No
ruined.
running on all fours for you.
Yeah, you're just this ruined creature now, like with missing one arm. The other one is broken as they stand all around you. On the Huskarl's turn, those warriors approach the door, and you, Asgeir, see spears to blot out the sun as a rain of throwing spears rain down upon you. Now, I could roll 30 spear throws.
You don't have to. They all slam into it through this fine ornate armor as one of the perhaps leading soldiers of this foul thing's army, and he slowly drops to his knees, a smile on his face, and he says, "I'm coming, father," and then drops to the ground.
Yeah, I think this is going to have to happen. One of the Huskarls. No, he wouldn't see it. Never mind. Yeah, so that's the spears pierce through you, and you are pinned to the ground with all these spears, almost symbolic of Odin. And okay, so then
Beobrand will walk up and kick the sword from Asgeir's hand, and then he will drive his blade down into Orn, the armless. He's going to use his bonus action to second wind beforehand, actually. Are you still fighting recklessly, Lucreus?
That is correct.
Okay. A 23 to a 15.
15 misses. Your target's 17.
Okie dokie. $11 slashing. This creature and the witch slew our rightful king. Beat him into submission, or kill him if you must. That's it for me.
Okay. So everyone's done for, except for Orn.
We see Orn, one arm severed, another hanging limply at his side. He gnashes out at the creatures around him. And in a flash, he darts over to where the fallen sorceress is. I'm not even going to make my attack rolls, but I'm going to use my mobile feat to allow me not to provoke opportunity attacks from those around me.
Okay.
Or I guess I could take a disengage action. That would be the same thing. We see him crouched over the form of this sorceress. You mourn a pretender king, a white shadow, an alpha plant. But you, men of Iskloft, see nothing. Blinded by the one eye of your master, he spits a curse on you, a curse on your kind. The Jotun respect the ways of the forest. The Jotun were here before man sullied this once great kingdom. And the Jotun shall have the allies of the forest. Your dead king shall be mourned, but he cannot save you, for the bones have been cast. As he reaches down, he bites the bag of bones and scatters them across the floor. One last casting of the runes before he runs and jumps off the side of the cliff with a triumphant "Ow!"
The runes clatter. And if anyone thought to look, there would be ill omens there of war, of endless strife, of man fighting man, of plague and death and famine. But they don't think to look. Beobrand, the people look to you, horrified, confused. They don't know what to do. Many of the warriors just look.
Oh, people of Iskloft, hearken to me and listen. These creatures, cretins, were sent by the Jotun against our king, for they knew their end was nigh. Maddened and ensorcelled, they attacked him, you saw with your own eyes. Let us have vengeance upon them and finish our dead lord's work until a new king can be found. Until that time, I will act as steward in his place, as he had uttered his last desirance to me, to see the ending of the Jotun, to claim all the north. He'll raise his sword up as that, hoping that the cheer of the mindless mob will echo over his lies.
And it does. That is the cry that you hear. Oh, kill the Jotun! As we fade to black. Thank you guys for playing. That's fucking rad. Thank you if you watched. I hope you had a very good time. I certainly did. Did not expect this to go this way at all. But it ended up just extremely canonical somehow, which is great.
Thanks for running it.
Yeah, it was a blast, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thank you if you watched, guys.